So an event is neutral until we bring to the table our expectations, our perceptions, our indoctrination of moral hypocrisies about how life's supposed to be. And we, as a result of it, then label it that way. So I've been blessed to take people who've been traumatized. I had a guy had his buddy walk over a mine, crawl over a mine in front of him, and he saw the mine and he tried to warn the guy it's too late, and it blew up and had most of his buddy all over his body. Wow. I mean, and we went through and took each frame of that experience and found what happens when the mind dissociates from a trauma, dissociates and creates an anti-memory, an anti-perception. And if I can show them the anti-perceptions in each frame of that experience and put those two together, the so-called trauma and ecstasy, or torture and ecstasy, come together. And I like to think of love as the synthesis of all pairs of opposites. And I can show them, then all of a sudden they're in tears of gratitude for the event. And it's hard to comprehend to somebody that's just hearing it. But when you actually see it and talk to the person, you go, whoa, this is amazing.
How do they get to gratitude in that event when their buddy's blown up?
Because what they realize their mind dissociates. When somebody's in a near-death experience, or they're traumatized, they called it, or whatever, their mind will create an anti-experience in order to balance it, to keep the excitation and inhibition ratios in the brain balanced. The brain has to have a homeostatic state, so it'll create the opposite. And our intuition is trying to help us see it, but our impulses and instincts of our amygdala override it with drama, and we run the story, and then we stop ourselves from being able to see the other side. But if I go in there and I get them really present in the moment of the perception of that, and take them frame by frame, and let them now, and I ask them exactly what the anti-content is. If they're darkness, where's light? I'll give a real case. It's an interesting case. So this happened quite a bit years ago. A lady comes to me, and she was 4 years old. Her father staked her to the ground with tent stakes, arms and legs staked. There was a pet pig that she had gotten, won from some sort of contest, that grew up and was destroying the house and destroying the yard, and the father finally just lost it. He came home and it was just a mess. So he lost it, went out of control, tied her down the ground, and he stabbed the pig on a tarpaulin, wrapped it up in the thing and took it away, killed the pig. He just said, I can't have this pig anymore, and he just lost it emotionally. So I think we've all had moments where we just right to that edge. So the lady was, quote, traumatized. That's what she did. Now, this was 4. She was now 35 years later. So she's 39 when I met her. And she'd been running that story with her therapist and her specialist for 35 friggin' years.
We'll talk about therapists later.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to go there.
Okay.
But anyway, so she dissociated at that moment. And I said, now go to that moment when you're in the backyard, it's dusk, you're being staked to the ground by your father, and you're hearing a squealing pig as it's getting stabbed. As you're being constrained, I said, go into that moment of constraint. Close your eyes. Get present. Because at the moment of perception, that's when the memory and the anti-memory separate and are judged by the amygdala. The second we go and perceive it and label it negative, terrible, our mind will dissociate and create this opposite. It's like a freeze response. So I asked her, go in that moment, what are you perceiving? I'm perceiving a bit cool and dark. But her mind dissociated from that, and she saw herself going through a field in a warm, sunny place in her mind. I said, great. At that moment, when you're in that state, you feel constrained. In that moment, I'm running through a field, there are butterflies and birds, and I'm free, just running freely through this field. The brain creates the anti-memory. Neuron Magazine, March 17, 2016, has a great article on the anti-memory and the EI ratios. So at that moment, we then realize, then all of a sudden the father stabs the pig. And at that moment, she dissociated. And when she did, she thought, I'm powerless to stop my father. So she imagined power coming there, and she saw a white light that she, from her indoctrination from her childhood, believed to be God. So she imagined a white light like the sun. As the stabbing occurred, a white dove symbolizing peace from her instruction from church. Anything we've been taught in our life that's stored with a valency in our psyche can be pulled up and brought in to create the anti-memory, the content that's counterbalancing what she's experiencing. At that exact moment when she's feeling that I have hopelessness, I feel powerless, comes God, hope and power. I'm now being death and stabbing, eternal life, a symbol of a little angel dove, symbolic from a Christian bringing up. We went through there, and there were 4 stabbings, 4 doves went around the white light. This father wouldn't listen to her, and she was yelling. He would not listen. This godlike figure and these angels were listening to her and guiding her and saying everything's fine, everything's okay. So at that exact moment when she was doing this, the anti-memory was there. And when I showed her this and made her aware of both of them, they come together and they synthesize and they get a gamma synchronicity in the brain.
Investment Club. Today, I consider it the best investment that I've ever made. We get 4 projects presented a week by their associated CEOs. Personally, I'm completely blown away by the quality of these projects, and I know of nowhere else where I would be given this same opportunity. Each week that passes, I feel more appreciative of the fact that I'm a member of this group. The vibe was just tremendous. Everybody's on the same wavelength. We just clicked. Everybody listened to each other, enjoyed their company. It was just magical, magical. Take action. Don't take my word for it. Due diligence you need to do. And I really hope that someday down the road I see you in the club. It far exceeded expectations, without question.
This one creates a sympathetic response. This one creates a parasympathetic response. They come together with autonomic regulation and they get this synthesis and synchronicity. And a gamma synchronicity in the brain occurs, and there's an aha moment, and there's all of a sudden a hidden order from the apparent chaos, because chaos is basically missing information. You're missing the positives here, you're missing the negatives there. But together, if you see them simultaneous, as Wilhelm once says, synchronous simultaneity of contrast brings love. Love is the synthesis and synchronicity of all complementary opposites, no matter what it is. The unity of opposites, Heraclitus described. In that moment, when she got that, she broke out in tears. And she realized that she is a medical intuitive using her psychic, quote, abilities, which is actually dissociative psychosis, but her psychic abilities to access these angels to guide her and people's lives. I said, so these have been with you since you were a child. Yes, they've been my gods, and they started me on my spiritual quest, my personal development quest, my intuitive quest, my psychic abilities, etc. Did you thank your father? And she just stalled and just shocked for a second, and then she starts bawling. Because I never saw that the very career that I have, the very service that I have, the thing that I'm known for, the thing I've written a book about, my intuitive capacities stem from that so-called post-traumatic stress disorder. When she did, that frame of that whole event had no trauma. There's no trauma left. There's no ecstasy, no trauma. And then I said, now that you realize that they're pairs of opposites and you integrated them and you got a gamma synchronicity in the brain and there's no polarity sitting there, now try to access, because right now you're not angry with your father and you needed to be angry about this torture in order to access this opposite state. This one's gone, this one's gone. Now just go into there and try to relive this. She goes, I can't access it, it's not there. And I said, no, nor is this one. She said, well, am I going to lose my angel guides? I said, these angel guides were never angel guides. They're you. They're projections of your own thing. At the Bardo Thadal, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it says at the moment you're passing, you're presented with both peaceful and wrathful deities, but fear not, for they are nothing but projections of your own mind. So these were projections. This was a trauma that was assumed it was a negative without a positive. That causes excitation, inhibition in the brain. The anti comes in, the dissociated opposite anti-memory comes in to get the IE ratios back into balance, to stabilize the brain. And when you put those two together and be fully conscious of it, not half conscious and half conscious, but fully conscious, the whole thing is dissolved. There's no trauma, there's no ecstasy. You had separated the ecstasy from the trauma in that moment, and ran the dramatic story and kept the drama going and have now an instinct. And anybody that reminds you of your father, anybody that reminds you of any aspects of that, you're now going to be an avoidance response. And yet at the same time, anybody that reminds you of this, you're going to be in a seeking response. So you've been on a path of seeking anybody that's in that world of esoteric.
And not taking her own credit for that.
Not realizing that that's not outside. Anytime you blame things on the outside, you give credit to things on the outside to keep those things balanced. And so she was giving credit out here and giving blame out here, and the whole thing was nothing but her own doing. So it's not what happens to you, it's your perceptions of it.
And by neutralizing that, what can she now do?
Well, her clientele changed from partly psychotic schizophrenics that were dissociated, excuse the expression, but she was working with people that were also like her.
Right.
To raising her fees, stabilizing her perception of her own life, now working with a client, being more reasonable with her understanding, more rational, and realizing this was her, that she had been dissociated the entire time.
So
35 years.
Evolution, transformation, becoming the person you really are,
She's
and being of
moving from
service.
her amygdala function,
Right.
where she's a victim of history, to her executive function, where she's now a master of her destiny.
Right.
That's what happened. Her self-worth went up, because blaming does not raise your self-worth. And giving dissociation. See, anytime you give credit to something out there, you minimize yourself. Anytime you blame somebody, you exaggerate yourself, and those are not you. Those are all inauthentic imposter syndromes. The real you is always the center between the pairs of opposites. And that's the one that is the hero and the villain. You know, she's the hero with this one and the villain with this one in her perceptions. But when she integrated her own hero and villain and realized where she has done those things also, that was her. The whole time it was her.
Wow.
And we want to run our story and dramatize it, and we keep ourselves in a victim of history for days, months, years, decades. I know some people are 70 years into it because they keep dramatizing it.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.